watch and watch for your questions. It is Monday in studio with Emily, 11 o'clock Mountain Time. You can find me here every Monday. It's a great time to ask me questions live. And just I want to just share with you what I'm working on. So first of all, most of you know that we have launched the Pop Art Pups collage quilt pattern, and I'm super excited about it. I'll just show you a few of these. And then I also have a webinar that's going to be coming up. There's Charlie. I'm going to work on finishing this quilt so that I can share it with you next week or the following week. I love this one. Anyway, so that's what's been going on. Pop Art Pups. Let me just talk. Whoops. He's not glued down yet. Oh, isn't he so cute? I just love him. I think he's my favorite, Toto. Anyway, let me go over kind of, so that's been going on in the studio. We have a webinar coming up. I want to make sure that I explain the webinar is, it is a workshop with me. I will go over, it's a 3-hour workshop. So this is a long, deep dive into making the Pop Art Pups, but also providing you with a great foundation in color theory and how understanding color theory can improve your collage quilts. I'll go into, hi, I see some comments here, Bev and Ellen, hello. I will also go into products and applying color theory to fabric selection. So all of this, everything that I'm going to go into in the workshop is what's available in my paid workshop. So this is not anything that you'll find in the free videos that I offer. Then I'll go through demonstration of the product or of the technique for making the Pop Art Pups. So I am getting a lot of questions about making patterns aside from Pop Art Pups. People are asking, can I use my own photograph? Are you going to teach how to make your own photograph or make your own pattern from your photograph? No, this is not that workshop. I will at some point in the future be offering a workshop to make your own patterns, but it will probably be a lot more involved. To make your own pattern is going to require kind of a deeper dive in some things. So let's see. So, and can I use my cat? I'm not going to say you can use your cat. If you want to do something on your own, you're welcome to. I'm telling you what I'm providing in the webinar is color theory, products, methods for making the Pop Art Pups. Okay.
But you can still come and watch.
But you're welcome to come and watch, and I promise you that you will wind up with some really, really valuable information. The idea is if you're going to do a Pop Art Pup, then you can follow along with me and we'll work on one of those together. You'll be able to interact with me and ask questions about the project. Let's see. So that's the upcoming webinar. It is almost full, and I will be offering additional webinars in the future if this is successful. So normally I'm just doing webinars and workshops for quilt guilds and different events. I do have a lot of events coming up. So you can always also find an event or workshop on my website. If you go to my website and look under the events tab. So I've got a few things like that coming up, but I will also announce additional webinars. So if you have other questions about the webinar or Pop Art Pups, go ahead and put them in the comments and I will answer them in this video. Somebody Kaylee Taylor just asked, but how do I get a jacket like yours? I assume you're talking about my sweater? I'm not really sure, but.
Yes, she is, of course.
Okay, thanks. Let's see, I got this probably at REI.
I think you got it in Jackson.
I don't remember. It's a ski. It's my base layer for skiing. I was kind of hoping to go skiing this afternoon because we've just gotten dumped on, and I'm a skier. So my husband and daughter just left to go up there, and I'm hoping I can meet them up there. Okay, so Susan just asked, when is it? I'm assuming you're talking about the webinar. The webinar is on March 13th. No, sorry.
I don't know.
Wait, yeah, it
I
is
guess
March 13th. Yeah, it's March 13th. That's when the webinar is. I'll post the link again. But like I said, I think the webinar is almost full. Yeah, I guess it does look quilty. That's true. Okay, so let's move on to what else I'm working on. You can kind of see in the background a new project that I'm working on. This will be a companion piece to, so
Are we pull it forward?
yeah, pull that forward and grab the pansies. So I've decided, I think I might have mentioned this last week, but this is kind of it's coalescing in my brain, this new collage that I'm creating, and it's going to be kind of a collage of some of my collages, some of my collage patterns. So it will be you want to bring the pansies. Yeah, so I'm going to do a collage that's kind of a still life. Nothing will be floating. It will look like it's an interior shot of a little garden shop or something. So you saw that one last week. That's fine. You can move it. So I'm going to change the clementine into a fig tree, and I'm adding an orchid to it. And I've got a cat that will be part of that. And I think I showed you the drawing of the cat. So that cat will be in this collage. Each of these pieces, so the pansies will be sold separately. The cat will be sold separately. This orchid will be sold separately, so that if you want to follow along and make what I'm making, you can do that. So that's what I'm working on. I thought it's kind of fun to share with you what I'm working on. And then should we do some questions now?
Sure.
So let's do questions. Remember, these are questions that you have for me. They can be collage related. Thank you, Viv. I love the pansies too. That's probably the favorite thing I've done recently. I'm really excited about that. One more thing about the pansies. Where did they go? I'll just show you something that's kind of interesting about the pansies versus anything else that I've done recently. I am trying really hard to use all printed fabric and not even so much batiks. So there are a few pieces that are batiks, but the majority of these pieces are Kaif and other really bold patterned fabrics. And so that's kind of a personal challenge for myself to create something that's I love that scrappy look. I don't want it to look I want it to look scrappy. So anyway, there it is. You can see all the pieces of fabric in there. So it looks kind of messy up close. I want that. That's what I'm trying to achieve as an artist. I'm trying to be more scrappy, more impressionist. And that's the biggest challenge for me as an artist. I get too myopic. I try to make things too perfect, and I need to let go of that and be scrappier. I think that's one thing that was really fun about the dogs too. I think these turned out, I'm really happy with the way they turned out. Like I really, really love this little pug. I want to show you this. So I love the fact that he's made with a whole bunch of, very different patterned fabrics. I love that I've used different colors, so you can kind of see teal and purple and blue, and there's nothing that's white in there. There's nothing these are the closest to solids, but they're actually not solids. So anyway, and blue also. Let me show you blue up close, because I'm really proud of that collage. I think that's really interesting. I love the variety of fabric. So anyway, that's that. Okay, so I'm going to ask some questions. And if you have questions, you can email me or you can put them in the comments. And okay, so here's the first question. Now, this is funny because the woman emailed me this question. I don't remember who it was. And I answered it instead of thinking that it was for today. Okay, Laverne, I'll get to your question in just a minute. So number one, how did you get started selling your patterns and growing in this business? Do your daughters collage quilt as well or quilt at all? So that is a couple questions. First of all, Amelia has made a collage quilt. My other daughter, Caroline, has never made a quilt. Amelia is going to make her first pieced quilt. She's picked out the K fabric for that. So she's brand new in this. But her collage quilt, where did that go? Your version of Felicity.
I think it's tucked away.
Anyway, one of these days I'll pull that out. I couldn't find it. We need to find that because it's really cute. I want to show them. I love it. I think it turned out really good for a first timer. So that's Amelia. And then how did I get started selling my patterns and growing in this business? There's a lot to that question. So I got started in the quilt industry about 12 years ago, I guess, when I decided I wanted to be a fabric designer. My background is I was a mural artist, and I've always been what I call a creative entrepreneur. And I'm a risk taker. So I trained myself on the computer and kind of became a self-taught graphic designer. And when I had reached a skill set that allowed me to create some fabric, I submitted that to a fabric company and they hired me to design fabric. Now, I think I was a really crappy fabric designer. I don't use my fabric a whole lot, but that's kind of how I got involved in the quilt industry. From there, I launched a company called Pattern Jam, and Pattern Jam was a really cool company where you could design fabric or design a quilt top, and it would shoot out the cutting instructions and fabric requirements. I think Pattern Jam is still around. My former business partner owns Pattern Jam now. I had a really nasty end with Pattern Jam, and but so that was a real low point for me. I had invested tons of money and tons of effort into Pattern Jam, and that was really a miserable fail for me. I lost everything, and I was at a low point in my life where I felt like, holy cow, what do I do now? I'm middle-aged, and this was my business. And so when that failed, I kind of had a choice to, I was like, okay, what now? What do I do now? And this was in the late 2017. And I had been very inspired by the collage quilts that I'd seen from Susan Carlson and Laura Heine. So I put myself to work and created a collage quilt because I thought, you know what, this is really very artistic. It's an artistic way to play with fabric, so I can stay in the quilt world, but really kind of pursue an artistic angle. So I made my first collage quilt, and I was really happy with the way that turned out. And I took it up to a quilt shop. This is kind of how I operate. I took it up there hoping that they would notice it and be interested in it, under the guise that I was just looking for a background. And that kind of worked. That got their attention. And so I forged a relationship with this quilt shop and began teaching there. And she started selling my patterns, and she would put my quilts on the wall. So it was that one quilt shop. It was Elaine's Quilt Shop in Cottonwood Heights, Utah. Ione was the owner, and she was awesome. And she really helped me gain a lot of confidence and gave me the opportunity to teach and feel like I could get a foothold in the collage quilt world. So I then, I built this website and just started kind of trying to grow my presence on social media, on Facebook in particular, and started the Collage Quilter Academy, or I started Collage Quilter Facebook group first, and then the Collage Quilter Academy later, but that's kind of how I got started doing it. So I've really only been doing collage quilts for, really started my company in 2018. So this is what, 2018, 2019, 2020. So I've been doing it for 3 years now. And one thing about me is I am very ambitious. I'm very driven, and I'm a risk taker, and I'm an artist. And I really want to continue to pursue my art. And so anyway, that's kind of how I got started in what I'm doing. I'm going to ask just maybe a couple more.
Answer Laverne's question.
Okay,
first.
Laverne, let me answer your question. Laverne's question was, how do you finish the edges of the pieces of fabric? So Laverne, each collage quilt that I make is made with raw edges. Okay, so I don't actually finish the edges of each piece of fabric. When I am finished with the collage, so all of these pieces are left raw edged. They all, however, have a fusible web on the back. So they're all adhered. Now I haven't adhered it to the background yet. I will do that, but and when it's adhered to the background, that will be a permanent fuse, okay? So this piece will fuse to the background permanently. And then I quilt it. So quilting it is I'll probably just do doodle stitching on each of the pups. And then I just treat it like a quilt. I do dense quilting, but I don't go around every single piece. So instead, the quilting will go through every single piece, but it doesn't go around each piece. So I hope that answers your question, Laverne, about the. Okay, so Vicky just asked a question. How do I start when I've never liked applique? Well, Vicky, I've never appliqued. So this is really different than applique. There are no edges to fold over. There's no reverse pattern to use. To me, this is very much like painting with fabric. So fabric is my medium, and I'm just going to put it in place. And I've decided that my adhesive of choice is the double-sided fusible web, because it makes it really easy to stick up there temporarily. If I don't like it, then I can peel something off. I have used glue in the past, and glue has its advantages, which you'll learn about if you join me in the webinar. So anyway, let's see, Laverne. Okay, so Kaylee said, yeah, I finished them with my long arm quilting. I've done lots of collage quilts for clients. Great. Well, Kaylee, thank you for answering that question for Laverne. I appreciate that. Vicki, I hope that answers your question about how do you get started if you've never liked applique. You just, it's an entirely different beast. I don't consider it applique, even though it probably is raw edge applique. Okay, if I don't see any other questions, Amelia, you kind of help me monitor questions. I will pull a few more out. Kaylee said it's good to use a lighter cursive web like Steam and Seam Light. Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, here's a question. I had a favorite picture of my son made into a large fabric piece. How should I collage quilt it, or would it be better to just sort of thread sew it? Well, that's a really good question. First of all, I have really strong opinions about doing portraits in collage quilts. I think they're very difficult as a painter. Now, my background is I'm a self-taught artist, and I've taken legitimate intensive portrait classes, and I've painted portraits. Portraits are very, very hard. That's the pinnacle of difficulty in art. What makes it hard is getting a likeness. Now it helps if you have a picture on your panel, that helps. But I definitely would not recommend that you jump into making a portrait if you haven't made a collage quilt before. That's just me. And I'm an artist. I would not attempt that without having some foundation in understanding collage and different fusibles, okay? And then the sort of thread sewing or thread painting, I kind of like the idea of thread painting. I call it doodle stitching on top of a collage because it's not as dense as doodle stitching, I would say, is not as dense as thread painting. For me, thread painting is painting with thread. So it's extremely dense, covering your, then you're covering up your fabric with your thread. And for me, why would I go through the effort of making a collage with all these beautiful fabrics if I'm going to cover it up with thread painting? Instead, my doodle stitching is very loose compared to thread painting. So those are the way I see things. Okay, Kaylee says, I could help you teach portraits. It's not hard. Yep, maybe so. Let's see. Okay, I think let's do maybe one more question and then we are gonna call it for this week, and we'll meet up again next Monday at 11. If you have questions, just email them in, or you can catch me live and we will talk about them while we're live. Okay. This question, what entertains you while you are working? I love to listen to books. In fact, I'll share this with you in the Collage Quilter Academy Facebook group, my book list. I'm actually a voracious reader. I always have a book that I'm listening to while I'm working, and then I read a book before I go to bed. I like to read a good book. So I always have 2 books going at the same time. So I have some strong opinions about good books. So I'll put my book recommendations. I love Audible. I've been an Audible listener for a long time. I know you can rent books at the library. That's great too. So anyway, I'll share that. That's what entertains me while I'm working. Okay, Patty says, stay warm. Hope you get lots of snow soon. We are getting a ton of snow. Finally, we have a big fat snowstorm and we've got snow coming all this week. So hallelujah, Utah has snow. Everybody else stay away though. Just let the locals enjoy the skiing for once. Okay, I think that's it, unless you see any other. Thank you for your kind comments, everybody. I want you to know how much I really appreciate the kindness, and I'm so shocked and surprised at, it's hard to put yourself out there. It's hard to put yourself in front of a camera and act like an expert. And that was a challenge for me. And you have been so gracious and kind and warm. And I feel like I've made some real friends. And I am very grateful to you all for your support, enthusiasm, and kindness. And thank you so much for joining me on this creative journey. So until next week, I will see you next week. Until then, we'll catch up on YouTube and catch up in the Collage Quilter Academy Facebook group. Okay, take care, everyone. See you later. Let's see if I can end this stream.